"Do you find me attractive at least?" he asked, his tone teasing. Adaize's lips curled into a small smile. The king stood up and walked toward her. "Take off your clothes," he commanded softly. "This is an order from your king." Once upon a time, in the heart of an ancient Igbo kingdom of Umunze, there reigned a young prince named Obiora. His father, King Nwafor, had been a ruler both feared and respected. When Nwafor died, leaving the throne to Obiora at just 24 years old, the people transferred their fear of the father onto the son. Though Obiora was young, his father's shadow loomed large. But unlike his father, Obiora's reputation didn't come from wars or harsh rule, but it came from his love for women. Prince Obiora was handsome beyond words. His skin was like smooth bronze, and his body was well built. His face, sharp and perfectly formed. Many maidens admire him each time he passed in his traditional royal convoy. However, it wasn't just his looks that filled the whispers of the kingdom. His appetite for women was legendary. Each night, a different maiden would be summoned to his chambers. No one dared refuse, and many even looked forward to it, knowing they would leave with gifts from the palace. Soon word spread to nearby kingdoms. Maidens began moving closer to Umunze, hoping for a chance to be selected by his guards in charge, to meet the king and leave with treasures. But despite his charm and wealth, the young king Obiora remained empty inside, searching for something he didn't understand. One day, as the king was touring the kingdom with his guards, he noticed a maiden in the marketplace. She was like no one he had ever seen before. Her skin was light, her breasts full and large, and her hips round. She stood tall, and her beauty made the air around her shimmer. Obiora's heart raced. "Who is she?" Obiora asked one of his guards. The guard stepped forward and said, "Her name is Adaize, my king. She is the daughter of a poor fisherman." Without another thought, Obiora sent his guards to fetch her. The guards approached Adaize and told her, "The king desires you. You will come to his bed tonight." But Adaize shook her head. "Please help me apologize to the king. I have plans for myself and regarding my body," she said, her voice steady. "Losing my virginity for treasures is not part of those plans. I will not come." The guards were furious. No one had ever spoken to them like this, let alone refused the king. One guard reached out to grab her and police on her, but Obiora, watching from a distance, stopped him. The king, intrigued by her boldness, ordered her to be taken to Obodo Nkata, the palace's special prison, where he kept those he wanted to teach a lesson by himself. That night, after the moon had risen high in the sky, Obiora went to Obodo Nkata to see Adaize. As he entered, he found her asleep on the cold stone floor. Her beauty struck him again, even in sleep. He instructed the guards to wake her, and she was taken to his chambers. Obiora sat on his bed, watching as Adaize stood before him, looking stressed. "Do you know how many women dream of being where you are now?" he asked, his voice soft but commanding. "Long may you live, my king. I am not like them," Adaize replied calmly. "My virginity is mine, and I will give it to no one except the man I marry." Obiora chuckled. "Marriage? Is that what you want? I can arrange a marriage tomorrow if that's what you desire." Adaize shook her head, her eyes never leaving his. "No. I will marry for love, not because of power. I don't want to be tied to royalty or power. I want a simple life." Obiora leaned back, surprised. "You don't want to be queen. You don't want the riches, the power." "I don't, my king," she said firmly. Obiora stared at her in silence for a while. "Do you find me attractive at least?" he asked, his tone teasing. Adaize's lips curled into a small smile. "You are handsome, yes. But I don't want to be with someone simply because of their looks or power." Obiora laughed again. "So you don't hate me?" "No, my king," she said. I don't hate you, but I choose when and how I give my love. The king stood up and walked toward her. Take off your clothes, he commanded softly. I don't, she stammered. This is an order from your king, Obiora said in a charming yet stern voice. Adaize hesitated but knew she had no choice. Slowly, she removed her dress, her body standing bare before him. Obiora's eyes roamed over her, but when he reached out to touch her, something stopped him. He saw that her eyes were closed, and tears trembled on her lashes. He pulled back, confused by his own emotions. Get dressed, he said quietly. You will leave in the morning untouched. Adaize looked up shocked. Why? Why are you letting me go? Obiora turned his back to her. Because I see something in you that I've never seen in anyone else. You remind me of the man I want to be. Adaize dressed quickly, still in disbelief. Thank you, she whispered. But just as she was about to leave, Obiora stopped her. Stay as my friend. Not as a lover, but as someone who can speak the truth to me, who can speak to me without fear of being prosecuted. Someone with whom I can just be myself without having to be the king. And so Adaize stayed. In the weeks that followed, she visited the palace when summoned, and so she and Obiora spoke often, their conversations deep and honest. However, as their friendship deepened, Adaize couldn't help but notice the constant parade of women leaving Obiora's chambers whenever she visited. One afternoon, as Adaize entered the palace, she crossed paths with a young woman who had just left the king's chambers. Her face flushed and her hair a mess. Adaize's chest tightened with jealousy, though she tried to push the feeling aside. It became a routine every time she arrived. Another woman was either leaving or entering. Adaize could no longer hold it in. That night, after yet another woman brushed past her as she entered the palace, she found Obiora lounging by the fire. He smiled when he saw her but quickly noticed the tension in her eyes. What's wrong, Adaize? Obiora asked, his voice soft with concern. Adaize crossed her arms, her voice sharp. Every time I come here, I have to walk past one of your women. It's insulting. Obiora raised an eyebrow, a playful smile creeping onto his lips. Are you jealous, Adaize? Adaize's face flushed with frustration. This isn't about jealousy. It's about respect. If you truly want my friendship, I won't stand to be treated like one of your conquests. Obiora's grin widened. But you are jealous. Admit it. Adaize glared at him. If this continues, I will stop coming here, Obiora. I won't waste my time watching you entertain every woman in Umunze. Though they have become friends, she only calls him by his name when he orders her to. But this time she did out of anger. Her words hit Obiora harder than he expected. He stood up, the teasing smile fading from his face. Fine, he said, his voice more serious now. I'll send them away. You have my word. Adaize relaxed slightly, though the tension still hung in the air. Good, she said, turning to leave. But before she could walk away, Obiora spoke again, his tone softer. Please stay a while longer. I need to talk to you. Adaize hesitated but eventually sat beside him. They sat in silence for a moment, the crackling of the fire filling the air. After a while, Obiora sighed deeply. You know, my father locked me away when I was younger, he began, his voice low. She learned of his past, how his father, the late king, had locked him away as a boy when his attraction to women was perceived excessive. The king had done that, afraid that his high libido would bring shame to the throne. My father thought keeping me away from women would make me stronger, Obiora confessed as they moved to sit by the fire. But it only made me crave them more. The people of Umunze actually believed you were hidden for royal training in preparation to ascend the throne, Adaize said. No, I was locked away. So when he died, I swore I would do what I wanted, with no one to stop me. Adaize listened carefully. You're not doing what you want, my king. Sorry. Obiora. You're angry with your father for locking you away. Obiora's face softened, as though her words unlocked something deep inside him. Maybe I am, he admitted. Maybe I'm trying to get back at him by doing what he hated on the same throne he had protected so much. But you can't punish yourself for your father's mistakes, Odaise said gently. It's your body, your people, your reign. You have a choice now to marry as many as you want. You don't need to keep up with this lifestyle. It's not befitting for a king. For now, you still enjoy your father's feared legacy. But with time, you will start to lose respect because everyone would know someone who had seen your nakedness. The maiden, seated quietly beside the king, took a deep breath before speaking. Her voice was soft but firm, carrying the weight of a secret she had long kept hidden. I have something to confess, Your Majesty, she began, her eyes fixed on the floor. The reason I stay away from men. It's not because I hate them. It's not even because I am untouched by desire. In fact, it is the opposite. King Obiora's eyes narrowed slightly, intrigued by her words. He leaned in closer, sensing the depth of what she was about to reveal. I have a very high libido, she continued, her cheeks flushing with embarrassment. I crave intimacy more than I'd like to admit. That's why I've chosen to keep myself for marriage. I'm afraid that if I begin without a proper marriage to ground me, I might lose control. She looked up at him then, her gaze filled with vulnerability. I fear I could become loose, moving from one man to another, unable to stop. I don't want to be consumed by my desires. I want to save myself for someone who will love me, not just for a night, but for a lifetime. The king listened in silence, feeling the weight of her words. For the first time, he understood her struggle, one not so different from his own, but she chose to handle it with more grace. Over time, their bond grew deeper. The king, once consumed by his desires, began to change. His love for Odaise was pure, unlike anything he had ever felt. He stopped calling for other women and focused on ruling his kingdom with fairness and wisdom. He realized his changing of women like a rapper wasn't really tied to his true desire, but a way to prove to himself that he was free from captivity. So, it was gradually becoming a habit. One day, after many months had passed, Obiora asked Odaise to marry him. I don't want a queen for power, he said. I want you because you are the only one who understands me, compliments me, and has everything I want in a woman. Odaise, who had fallen deeply in love with him, agreed. They were married in a simple ceremony, and the kingdom rejoiced. The news spread quickly that King Obiora, once known for his wild ways, had found love and settled down. The kingdom flourished under their rule. Obiora became known as a wise and just king, and Odaise was beloved by the people for her kindness and wisdom. One night, after an intimate moment, Obiora lay beside pregnant Odaise, a smile on his face. I think this pregnancy has given you more energy, he teased, resting his hand on her growing belly. Odaise laughed softly. Or maybe it's you who can't keep up anymore, she teased back. Obiora grinned. I need to reserve strength to run the kingdom too. They both laughed, the warmth of their love filling the room. As Obiora rested his head on Odaise's chest, he whispered, You've changed me, my queen. And you've freed me, my king, she whispered back, kissing his forehead as they drifted off to sleep, their hearts as one. The story of their love became legend, a tale told for generations about the young king who found peace in the heart of the woman who dared to stand up to him.